The room was empty when he walked out. The lights were cold, the stage was silent, and the only sound left was his own heartbeat. He had just failed again. Another audition, another door closed. He could have blamed the world, but instead, he whispered something that changed everything. Maybe this fall is not the end. Maybe it's the beginning. Look, the world will test you in silence. It will strip your applause, take your comfort, and watch what's left standing. That's where you meet yourself. I've been there, and here's the truth. Pain isn't your enemy, it's your introduction to purpose. They told you failure stops you, but I'm here to tell you, it's just the first step to greatness. You will be unstoppable if you know this, if you learn how to turn the words that once broke you into the language that builds you. Failure, it's a word that can freeze your spine. We hear it and instantly feel that sting. The silence after rejection, the weight of not being enough, the echo of every doubt we tried to bury. But look, failure isn't the monster they told you it was. It's the teacher, standing quietly in the back of the room, waiting for you to stop running from the lesson. Every stumble you've survived carried information. Every no was instruction wrapped in discomfort. The universe doesn't punish through failure. It educates through contrast. You touch the flame once, and your hands remember heat. You fall from the stage once, and your heart learns resilience. Failure refines awareness. It takes dreams out of fantasy and drags them into discipline. When I think back to my own early days, I remember standing outside casting rooms, rehearsing lines that no one would ever hear. I remember the smile that faded when the door closed and the list of chosen names didn't include mine. And I remember the whisper in my mind, maybe I'm not built for this. But that's the lie failure tells before it introduces itself. The truth comes later when you realize that rejection was not the end. It was the rehearsal for persistence. Recognition begins there. Understanding that falling is not failure, quitting is. Every stumble holds a seed of mastery if you're willing to dig through the dirt of embarrassment to find it. And real talk, it hurts. The kind of hurt that makes you question your worth, not just your plan. But here's the thing, pain doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're alive, you're trying, you're moving. The only people who never fail are the ones who never attempt. Failure is the forge. It melts arrogance, reshapes ego, and hardens purpose. Inside that fire, excuses can't survive. You learn to stop blaming the storm and start building the shelter. You learn to stop waiting for luck and start practicing precision. When you fail, you gather data about timing, about trust, about truth. That's not defeat, that's research for your next victory. Think about the greats, not the names, but the patterns. None of them were crowned in their first round. They were crushed, criticized, and overlooked. And yet each one used that same pain as propulsion. Failure became fuel. Rejection became rehearsal. Ownership begins when you stop romanticizing success and start respecting struggle. You accept that progress isn't clean, it's carved. That falling is not the opposite of growth, it's the requirement for it. Most people fear failure because they think it defines them. But here's the secret. Failure doesn't define you, your recovery does. The way you respond when the lights go out reveals more than what you do when the spotlight's on. And sometimes you will fail publicly. People will see your misstep, your loss, your broken plan. They'll whisper, they'll laugh, they'll move on. Let them. They're spectators, not builders. The audience always leaves when the act gets uncomfortable. But the performer, he stays, he rewrites, he rehearses again. That's what champions do. Look, there's a rhythm to resilience. You fall, you feel, you learn, you rise. Over and over. It's not glamorous, but it's transformative. And somewhere along that repetition, something shifts. Failure stops being personal, it becomes procedural. You start to understand that every loss is just part of the curriculum of greatness. And here's an unpolished truth. Sometimes you will fail doing everything right. Your heart will be pure, your effort flawless, your intentions strong, and it still won't work. That's not karma punishing you. That's reality calibrating you. It's the world testing your endurance before it trusts your elevation. You see, success doesn't ask if you're talented. It asks if you're consistent. It doesn't care how loud you want it. It watches how long you stay when no one applauds. Every time you get back up, you build credibility with yourself. You become your own evidence. Action begins when you take that pain and make it productive. Don't just fall forward. Take notes in the ashes. Ask better questions. What did this teach me about me, about timing, about focus? If failure is feedback, then every setback is a signal. Maybe your method needs refinement. Maybe your circle needs cleansing. Maybe your belief needs stretching. The goal isn't to avoid failure, it's to extract meaning before moving again. Think of the sculptor. Every strike of the hammer is technically destruction. He's breaking something to reveal something. Failure works the same way. It chips away the excess pride, comfort, illusion. It hurts because growth is invasive. It cuts into identity and demands reconstruction. Real talk, you're going to want to quit. Not just think about it, you'll plan it. You'll picture walking away, telling yourself it wasn't meant to be. And then something small will whisper, try again. That whisper is your purpose refusing to die quietly. Follow that sound. That's where greatness begins. When you stop running from failure, you start running with wisdom. Every scar becomes a sentence in your success story. Every closed door becomes muscle memory for persistence. And one day, when people call you an overnight success, you'll smile because you'll know how many nights it actually took. The world loves results, but it's failure that builds the soul strong enough to handle them. Without failure, success would break you. Without rejection, recognition would poison you. Failure humbles the ego so that wisdom can lead. So next time you fall, don't ask, why me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Don't beg for lighter loads, build stronger shoulders, because the climb never gets easier. You just get better at carrying weight. Brother, failure is not the opposite of success. It's the apprenticeship of mastery. Every attempt you make refines your aim. Every mistake you study shortens your next recovery. There's no wasted motion when the mind is learning. So stand in front of your mistakes. Look at them without shame. Call them teachers. Call them partners. They are not proof that you lost. They are evidence that you tried. And that courage, that refusal to stop at defeat, that's what separates the dreamers from the doers. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be persistent. Perfection is sterile, it never grows. Persistence is messy, but it evolves. Let your failures breathe. Let them talk to you. They'll tell you where to adjust your focus, how to sharpen your edge, when to pause, when to push. And one more thing, don't compare your chapter of failure to someone else's highlight reel. They post their trophies, not their trials. They show their crowns, not the nights they bled for them. Stop measuring your worth against their mask. Your failure is sacred. It's custom, built for your transformation. When the world sees failure, you see formation. When others see collapse, you see construction. You are not behind, you are becoming. And becoming is never clean. It's sweat, it's silence, it's repetition, it's revision. So take the lessons your pain offers. Apply them with gratitude, not guilt. Forgive yourself for the attempts that fell short, because the next attempt carries all that wisdom forward. Failure doesn't erase your progress, it archives it. Every fall logged, every recovery recorded. Your resilience is your resume. And when you finally stand tall, when the victory arrives, don't forget the nights you doubted it would. Bow to your failures. They built the stage beneath your feet. Because in truth, you didn't fail. You were learning to fly the whole time. There's a moment that every dreamer meets. A night when the world goes quiet, and you wonder if what you're doing even matters. You've worked for months, maybe years, and nothing seems to move. Your hands are tired, your heart's uncertain, and your faith, it feels thin as paper. But here's the truth the world rarely tells you. Nothing you've poured your heart into ever truly disappears. Effort has memory. It remembers you. It remembers the nights you stayed up when no one asked you to, the sacrifices no one clapped for, the discipline no one saw. Every bit of work that seemed to vanish was absorbed into the soil of becoming. That soil never forgets. Look, the problem is, we've been conditioned to measure worth by visibility. If it's not seen, it must not exist. If it's not rewarded, it must not matter. But that's a lie that kills momentum. What's invisible right now is often the foundation for what's inevitable later. Roots grow in silence long before the bloom arrives. I remember once watching a mason build a wall. He laid brick after brick with no expression, no hurry, just rhythm. Someone passing by said, "He's wasting time, no one will see the base." But that mason just smiled and kept working. Later, when the wall rose high, strong, and straight, people praised its beauty, never realizing that its perfection came from the patience buried beneath. That's effort. That's legacy work. The unseen always holds the seen. Recognition starts here. Realizing that every ounce of energy you invest is stored somewhere in your future. The universe banks your effort. Nothing evaporates. Every honest step creates ripples that move ahead of you, clearing paths you haven't walked yet. You might not see the connection today, but one day, a door opens easily because of something you built years ago in silence. Effort never dies because it's spiritual architecture. It builds character, shapes perspective, and teaches endurance. Even when it looks like nothing's happening, something always is. Real talk. Persistence doesn't guarantee speed, it guarantees arrival. This is where so many quit. They confuse delay with denial. They see no movement and assume no progress. But growth has a rhythm. Invisible seasons, quiet stretches, still intervals where life gathers strength beneath the surface. That's not inactivity, that's incubation. And sometimes you'll work hard and get less. You'll give your best and still lose. I know that sting. It burns pride, drains spirit, and makes you question if the fight is worth it. But here's the thing. Results are temporary. Integrity is eternal. What you build inside yourself through effort becomes unshakable currency. You're buying strength every time you refuse to quit. Ownership begins when you detach your worth from your results, when you stop saying, "I'll believe it when I see it," and start saying, "I'll see it because I believe it." Faith isn't fantasy, it's stamina for the unseen. Every push forward, even the small ones, reaffirms who you're becoming. There's an unpolished truth here. Success doesn't always come on your schedule. The world's timeline isn't your timeline. Sometimes you're ready in spirit, but not yet seasoned in skill. Effort bridges that gap. It prepares you for what you've been praying for. That's why the wait exists. Not to punish you, but to strengthen your capacity for what's coming. Remember, this momentum remembers every honest attempt. Effort compounds like interest. The small, consistent push creates the avalanche. People think breakthroughs are sudden. They're not. They're accumulated persistence bursting through the surface at last. Think of water carving stone. It doesn't win through force, it wins through patience. Every drop looks insignificant until one day the rock yields. Effort is like that, invisible erosion, quiet but relentless. And brother, effort doesn't die even when dreams change. Maybe you trained for one thing and life redirected you. That's not wasted motion. That's transferable strength. The discipline you learned there will serve you here. Nothing's lost when the lesson remains. Your past effort was rehearsal for your next performance. You've got to stop treating the unseen years like punishment. Their preparation, the grind you resent, is the gym for your character. Every repetition builds mental muscle. Every disappointment thickens emotional skin. And one day, that endurance will carry you through storms that would have drowned the old you. Look, there's another side to this truth. Quitting doesn't reset the clock, it restarts the lesson. If you stop halfway, the universe will bring the same challenge back until you finish it. That's not cruelty, it's mercy. It wants you complete, not half-built. Every time you try again, you're picking up wisdom from where you last left it. Effort never dies because it transforms who you are while you're doing it. Even if the outcome fades, the growth remains. The person you become through discipline is the real reward. Results decorate. Resilience defines. There's something sacred about the work no one claps for. It teaches you self-validation. It breaks the addiction to external approval. When you learn to move without applause, you unlock the secret to unstoppable consistency. You stop chasing validation and start embodying conviction. That's when effort becomes effortless. When it's no longer a performance, but a lifestyle. And yes, you'll get tired, sometimes deeply tired, the kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. But don't mistake tired for finished. Rest is part of the rhythm. Recharge, not retreat. Fatigue isn't a sign to quit. It's a signal to pause, breathe, and continue with wisdom. Here's an image that stays with me: a candle burning in a dark room. When the wax melts, it looks like loss. But that melting is what gives the flame life. Effort works the same way. It costs you something, but that cost fuels your illumination. Effort never dies, brother. It multiplies. It travels beyond the moment you gave it. Maybe years later, someone will be inspired by your persistence, and you'll never know. Maybe a door will open for your child because of the reputation you built today. Energy doesn't vanish, it evolves into legacy. So keep pressing, even when you're unseen, even when applause feels far, even when results mock you. The soil is keeping record, the roots are deepening, and the bloom, it's on its way. Remember this truth: success isn't magic, it's momentum. Every day you choose effort over ease, you add another brick to the road that leads to greatness. You may not feel movement, but the ground beneath you is changing, so don't stop now. Don't bury what's still breathing. Your effort is alive. Your consistency is currency. Your persistence is prophecy. Effort never dies. It simply waits to be recognized by the one who refused to quit. There was a time I thought hope was a lie, a word people used when they didn't know what else to say. I used to stare at the ceiling at 3 a.m., hearing the echo of my own doubt whispering, "It'll always be like this." And yet somehow, in the middle of that silence, something small kept breathing inside me, not loud, not bright, just a faint pulse of saying, "Not yet." See, hope doesn't come to those who feel strong. Hope shows up for the ones who've fallen so low they can't see the sky anymore. It's not a luxury. It's a survival instinct, the soul's rebellion against surrender. When your back is against the wall, when the world has written you off, hope becomes the only weapon you've got left. And sometimes it's enough. You see, the night isn't proof that the sun abandoned you. It's proof that the world is turning. What looks like an ending is often the earth making room for a new sunrise. But when you're in that darkness, when you're choking on pain, you forget that dawn is even possible. You start believing the night is eternal. That's when hope matters most. Not as a cliche, but as a choice. Because hope isn't passive. It's not waiting for a miracle. It's deciding, in your worst hour, that you will not let this be the end of your story. You might be broke. You might be betrayed. You might have lost everything you built. And your mind tells you, this is permanent. But hope whispers, no, this is preparation. Preparation for a stronger version of you. Pain teaches you to focus. Failure trains you to see differently. And darkness, it humbles you enough to see the light again when it returns. Every scar is a teacher. Every setback a hidden classroom. And hope. Hope is the quiet student taking notes in the back, knowing that one day you'll need what you learned in the dark. The truth is, you can't fake hope. You either have it or you fight to find it, and fighting for it, that's where transformation begins. Because pain can break you, but it can also build you if you let it. You decide which version of yourself survives the storm. Most people quit when it hurts, but the ones who rise, they stay long enough to let the pain refine them. Endurance isn't glamorous. It's lonely. It's exhausting. It's questioning yourself 1,000 times a day. But it's also the moment your soul grows calloused enough to carry purpose. You ever notice that a diamond isn't formed in sunlight? It's formed under pressure, in darkness, in silence. That's what hope does inside you. It compresses your chaos into clarity. You start seeing your wounds differently, not as punishment, but as polishing. The pain that was sent to destroy you becomes the very process that defines you. The betrayal that shattered your trust becomes the reason you build stronger boundaries. The heartbreak that almost ended you becomes the place where compassion and wisdom are born. And suddenly, you realize the suffering didn't destroy you. It introduced you to your own resilience. That's why I say hold on. Not because it's easy, but because everything meaningful in your life is waiting on the other side of not yet. You don't heal overnight. You evolve daily. Some days you move inches. Some days you just breathe. And sometimes just breathing is victory. If you can breathe, you can rebuild. If you can rebuild, you can rise. And if you can rise, you can win again. But you have to hold on through the middle, the ugly, uncertain, painful middle, because that's where faith turns into fire. Faith and hope are not the same. Faith says, I believe it's possible. Hope says, even if it's not visible, I'll keep walking. Faith is knowing the mountain can move. Hope is climbing it when it doesn't. And it's in that climb that you become unstoppable. So don't mistake delay for denial. Don't confuse waiting with wasting. The universe isn't punishing you. It's preparing you. Hope is the architect sketching the blueprint, while your pain lays the foundation. The house isn't built yet, but the plan is alive. Every storm has a lifespan. Every wound has an expiration date. Your pain is not infinite, but your potential is. The moment you stop running from pain and start learning from it, you gain something no comfort can ever teach: depth. And depth is where power lives. So hold on when it makes no sense. Hold on when everyone else lets go, because pain that's endured with purpose always ends with peace. And one day, you'll look back and realize what you thought was breaking you was actually building the version of you that could never be broken again. The night never defeated you. It just revealed your fire. The sun rises again, not because it owes you light, but because you had the courage to stand in the dark long enough to deserve it. That's hope. Not waiting, not wishing, but believing, even in silence, that the story isn't over yet. And when you understand that, when you learn to hold on through the pain, you become untouchable, because the world can take your comfort, your certainty, even your peace for a while, but it can't take your endurance. And endurance, my friend, is the language of greatness. Hold on. Pain ends, and when it does, you'll realize it didn't end you. It made you. They told me fear was something to escape, something to silence, to suppress, to pretend didn't exist. But the truth is, fear never leaves. It just changes shape, hides behind excuses, behind hesitation, behind that quiet voice saying, not yet. I've learned that fear doesn't come to stop you. It comes to measure you, to ask, how much do you want this? Every great life, every powerful transformation begins on the other side of fear. You don't eliminate it, you learn to walk with it. Because fear isn't a wall, it's a mirror. It shows you what still controls you, what you haven't claimed yet. The first time you face fear, it feels like drowning. Your heart races, your body shakes, your mind builds 1,000 imaginary disasters. But if you stay long enough, if you breathe through it, you realize something remarkable. Fear has no substance. It's smoke. And when you walk through it, you find that everything you imagined was far worse than reality. The scariest part was never the thing itself. It was your imagination rehearsing pain before it even arrived. Think about it. How many times did fear stop you before failure ever could? How many dreams died in the mind before life even had a chance to test them? Fear is clever like that. It doesn't need to destroy you. It just needs to delay you. Because hesitation is the silent assassin of potential. You keep saying, one day. You keep preparing, perfecting, waiting for the moment you feel ready. But fear knows you'll never feel ready. That's its trap. It sells you the illusion of safety while stealing your destiny one quiet day at a time. The ones who rise, they don't wait for courage. They move first and let courage catch up. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's movement in its presence. It's saying, I'm terrified, but I'm doing it anyway. And when you do that once, just once, fear loses its language. It no longer knows how to speak to you because you've proven you won't listen. You become unpredictable, unstoppable, because now fear's weapon, uncertainty, no longer belongs to it, it belongs to you. Look around. Every person who changed the world, every soul who broke through limits, they all carried fear in their pockets. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. But they moved anyway. They turned fear into fuel. And that's the secret. You don't fight fear with force. You transform it with focus. Focus on your vision. Focus on your purpose. Focus so deeply that fear's voice gets drowned in the sound of your determination. Because fear and focus can't coexist. Where focus lives, fear dies quietly. I remember the first time I had to face something I thought would break me. My hands were shaking. My throat was dry. Every part of me screamed to run, but a quieter part, a wiser part, whispered, "Stay." So I did, and I learned something powerful that day. Fear feeds on avoidance. Every time you run, it grows. Every time you face it, it shrinks. The more you confront, the smaller it becomes, until one day you look back and wonder how something that once felt so massive now feels like dust. You didn't destroy it. You just stopped giving it your power. Here's the truth: most people never realize fear is just energy, and energy is neutral. It becomes what you decide it to be. If you run, that energy becomes anxiety. If you resist, it becomes stress. But if you face it, it becomes power. The same electricity that can kill you can also light up a city if you learn to channel it. That's what rising through fear means. Not denying it, not suppressing it, but using it. Using the adrenaline, the urgency, the sharpness it gives you, because fear makes you alert. It makes you alive. And if you direct that energy with purpose, you become unstoppable. So next time your hands shake, next time your heart pounds and your knees feel weak, don't curse the feeling, thank it. That's the sound of growth. That's life stretching your limits. You can't expand in comfort. You can only evolve in conflict. And fear is the gatekeeper of evolution. It stands at every door of transformation asking, "Are you sure you want this?" And if you walk through anyway, you earn the right to rise. Fear tests authenticity. Anyone can talk about dreams, but when fear shows up, when your pulse quickens and your stomach drops, that's when you discover what's real. Do you still want it, even when it hurts, even when it risks everything, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed? If your answer is yes, then fear bows. It recognizes a spirit it can't control. That's when you rise, not when it disappears, but when it no longer dictates your direction. There's a saying, fear kills more dreams than failure ever will, because failure teaches, fear prevents. Failure leaves a scar, but scars are proof you tried. Fear leaves nothing but regret, and regret is a wound that never closes. So make your choice, pain of growth or pain of regret. Both hurt, but one leads to freedom. Every time you face fear, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You pull your power back from the shadows. You start walking taller, speaking clearer, living louder. Because when you conquer fear once, you start to see the pattern. Every time you step through, the next challenge feels smaller, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. You stop being defined by what scares you and start being defined by what you dare to do anyway. And that's the essence of rising. So when fear comes knocking again, and it will smile, It means you're still growing. It means life still has higher ground for you to claim. Face it, walk toward it, breathe through it, and when you rise, you'll realize fear was never the enemy, it was the invitation. An invitation to meet your truest self, the one hidden behind hesitation, waiting for courage to arrive. Because once you rise above fear, you don't just live differently, you become different. And that version of you, the one who faced everything and rose, can never go back. Loss, it's the teacher no one asks for, yet the one that shapes us more than any success ever could. When something or someone leaves your life, the first thing that goes with it is your balance. You start reaching for what's no longer there, like grasping at smoke, trying to hold a memory still warm in your hands. It feels unfair, like the universe made a mistake. You look up and whisper, "Why me?" But silence answers back, and in that silence, you meet the real lesson of loss, the strength that doesn't roar, it whispers. People think loss destroys you, but the truth is it reveals you. It strips away illusion, comfort, expectation, and shows you who you are when nothing is certain anymore. It's easy to talk about faith when the sun is shining, but loss tests your faith in the dark. When the warmth is gone, and you must still believe in the dawn. The world teaches you to measure your worth by what you have, but loss teaches you to measure it by what you keep after everything else is gone. When something collapses, a relationship, a dream, a version of yourself, you can stand over the ruins asking, "Why did this break?" Or you can kneel, sift through the dust, and whisper, "What is this trying to teach me?" Because loss isn't punishment, it's refinement. It burns away the unnecessary so you can see what's essential. You lost the job, but maybe it was the wrong cage for your wings. You lost the person, but maybe they were the noise drowning out your own voice. You lost the plan, but maybe life was preparing you for something far bigger than your imagination could contain. Loss doesn't always take from you. Sometimes it frees you, and yet we resist it because we crave permanence in people, in feelings, in moments. But permanence is an illusion. Everything you love will one day change form. Every sunrise will fade into night. Every heartbeat will one day stop, and still life continues. This isn't cruelty, it's design. The constant cycle of loss and renewal is how the universe breathes. And if you listen closely, you'll realize you're a part of that rhythm too. When something leaves, it's not the end of your story. It's the pause before the next chapter. I used to think healing meant forgetting. That one day I'd wake up and the ache would be gone. But healing doesn't erase pain. It transforms it. You stop asking for the wound to disappear and start asking for the strength to carry it with grace. That's what loss teaches you. Silent strength. Not loud, not dramatic, not performed for the world to see. Just the quiet courage to wake up again, to breathe through the ache, to smile when your heart is still heavy. And one morning, you realize the ache is softer, it didn't vanish, you just grew around it. You learn that grief has layers. First comes the denial, the desperate wish to rewind. Then comes the anger, at fate, at others, at yourself. And finally, acceptance. Not because it hurts less, but because you've grown strong enough to hold the hurt without breaking. Acceptance is not giving up. It's saying, "This is part of my story now." It's reclaiming peace, even when pieces are missing. And that peace, that quiet steadiness, becomes your superpower. Every loss changes the architecture of your soul. You start seeing differently. You start valuing differently. You stop chasing things that sparkle and start cherishing what stays when everything else fades. You learn that love isn't proven by presence, it's revealed by loyalty. You discover who truly walks beside you when the celebration ends. You find that silence can be sacred and solitude can be medicine. Loss humbles you, but it also awakens you. It teaches you gratitude in its purest form, not for what you have, but for what you've survived. There's a strange beauty in the aftermath of loss, because when you've been emptied, you finally have space for new life to enter. A cracked heart lets light in. A broken path makes you find a new one. A collapsed identity forces you to meet your real self, the one beneath all roles, all masks, all noise. You start to realize that endings are just disguised beginnings. And what left was never meant to stay, it was meant to move you forward. The storm that took everything from you also cleared your horizon. Now you can see further. Now you can build differently. And maybe that's the point. To break just enough that you stop pretending and start living truthfully. You stop trying to control what leaves and start honoring what remains. You stop mourning the closed doors and start noticing the light that seeps through the cracks, because the cracks are not your weakness. They're where your soul starts breathing again. So if you're standing in the wreckage right now, if something you loved slipped through your fingers, don't rush to fill the silence. Sit with it. Feel it fully. Because within that silence, your next chapter is gathering strength. The universe is not taking from you, it's teaching you how to rebuild, lighter, clearer, stronger. And one day, you'll look back and understand the loss didn't destroy you. It sculpted you. It stripped away the noise until only truth remained. The ones who never lose never grow deep. The ones who've known loss walk with a different kind of light, not the blinding kind that demands attention, but the steady kind that guides others home. So let the storm take what it must. What's real will remain, and what remains, that's your foundation. Loss isn't the end. It's the refining fire that reveals what's unbreakable within you. And once you find that silent strength, you'll never fear losing again, because you'll finally understand nothing real can ever be taken from you. We live in a world obsessed with applause, hearts, views, shares, the new currency of worth. People chase numbers like they mean something sacred. But here's the truth most won't tell you: applause fades faster than echoes. You can have 1 million followers and still feel unseen. You can trend for a day and disappear by nightfall, because popularity isn't purpose, and fame isn't fulfillment. Legacy, that's built in silence, not spotlight. When I was younger, I thought the goal was to be noticed, to walk into a room and feel the air shift, to have my name ring out like thunder. But with time and failure, I learned something raw. Being noticed and being remembered are not the same thing. You can impress people with your talent, but you impact them with your integrity. And the truth is, the world doesn't remember the loudest. It remembers the ones who showed up when nobody was watching. Look, it's easy to get lost in the noise. We live in the age of validation. Your worth can feel like it depends on someone else's click. You post your truth and you wait, hoping for approval, counting invisible votes. But let me say this: if applause is your oxygen, you'll suffocate in silence, because silence is where real purpose grows. You can't build legacy with an audience. You build it with endurance. Legacy doesn't come from the moments people see. It comes from the discipline they never will. The nights you stay up learning when no one's clapping. The choices you make when no one's keeping score. The integrity you protect when no one's there to reward it. Fame can make you popular. Discipline makes you powerful. And power, the right kind, doesn't need permission. Real talk likes are about perception. Legacy is about transformation. One feeds your ego. The other feeds generations. You can fake perception. You can buy it, edit it, filter it. But transformation, that's earned in the trenches of truth. And that's why legacy doesn't trend. It doesn't sparkle on the surface. It grows roots beneath the noise. Slow, patient, unstoppable. You might not get the credit you deserve today. You might pour yourself into your craft, your calling, your dream, and watch others with less depth rise faster. Don't lose heart. Fast fame burns out. Slow greatness endures. The tree that grows overnight is torn down by the first storm, but the oak that takes years to root, it stands through centuries. Legacy is oak work. Strong, deliberate, unhurried. And here's the unpolished truth. Most people chasing likes don't even know who they are without them. They need validation to feel alive. They mistake attention for love and recognition for respect. But validation is addictive. The more you get, the emptier it feels. Because it doesn't heal the wound, it feeds it. You don't build peace through performance. You build it through purpose. And purpose doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with criticism, doubt, misunderstanding. But that's fine, because people may doubt what you say, but they'll never doubt what you build. Let me tell you something from experience. The real ones rarely shout. They don't chase the crowd. They're too busy becoming the work. They plant seeds that take years to bloom. They write words that will still matter long after trends die. They build things that will outlive them. And that's what legacy really means. To be gone but not forgotten. To leave behind something that speaks even when you can't. Maybe your legacy won't be a headline. Maybe it'll be a child who learned courage because of how you lived. Maybe it'll be a stranger who found hope through your words. Maybe it'll be a life you saved without ever knowing it. Don't underestimate the quiet impact of consistent goodness, because that's what moves the world, not noise, but depth. Likes measure reach. Legacy measures roots, and roots matter more than branches, because branches can break, but roots survive every storm. So choose depth over display. Choose to build what lasts, not what trends. Choose to be the message, not the marketing. When your time here is over, they won't remember your follower count. They'll remember your character. They'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember the way you stood up when it mattered, and how you kept going when nobody believed you could. That's legacy. You don't need to shine in every room. Just light one, and let that light multiply through others, because greatness isn't about being seen by everyone. It's about being remembered by someone. So stop chasing applause. Start building echoes. Let your integrity be louder than your image. Let your actions preach louder than your captions. And let your work become the proof that you lived with purpose. Because in the end, likes fade, trends die, but legacy never does. It's carved not in numbers, but in the lives you've touched. And when that final curtain falls, no one will care how many people liked your life. They'll care how many lives you changed. I used to think being late meant losing, missing the moment. failing the race, watching everyone else cross the finish line while I stood there, breathless, empty-handed, wondering where I went wrong. But life doesn't run on your clock. It runs on its own sacred rhythm, and sometimes the delay you hate is the very design that saves you. There were years I thought I was forgotten. I watched people rise, go viral, succeed, while I stayed in the shadows. And it broke something inside me until I realized that shadows aren't punishment. They're preparation. Every minute you're unseen, you're being sharpened for what's next. You're not being left behind. You're being lined up. You see, life doesn't rush masterpieces. It doesn't hand greatness to the impatient. A storm has to gather before the rain falls. A seed has to decay before it blooms. You are not late. You're simply being calibrated. You're being tuned, tested, timed perfectly to meet the exact moment your soul was built for. When you understand that, peace replaces panic. You stop chasing and you start aligning. You stop saying, "Why not yet?" and start saying, "When it's time, it'll be mine." That's not delusion. That's divine timing disguised as delay. Because everything that is truly meant for you has its own clock. And when it strikes, no power on earth can stop it from finding you. Think about this. What if the door didn't open because you weren't meant to walk in yet? What if it would have destroyed you too soon? The thing you're praying for could have become your prison if it came before you were strong enough to carry it. The delay wasn't a denial, it was a detox. It was life removing the noise, the wrong people, the weak habits, the fragile ego that couldn't handle what's coming next. So when it feels like everyone's ahead, don't envy the early bloomers. Fast growth is fragile growth. Some people sprout quickly but break in the wind. Others take years underground before breaking the surface. But when they do, they become oaks, deep-rooted, unshakable. That's you. You're not slow, you're solidifying. You're building depth beneath the soil so your rise can't be undone by applause or adversity. Patience isn't passive. It's the highest form of power, because waiting with belief is harder than moving with doubt. Anyone can rush. Only the wise can trust. And trust is what makes you timeless. Because once you stop measuring your journey by their clock, you free yourself from the anxiety of comparison. You start walking your own lane, your own rhythm, your own reason. Remember this: life always runs a hidden schedule. You won't see the plan until you're standing where the pain once was. You'll look back and realize every delay was a reroute. Every no was a shield. Every not yet was an invisible hand guiding you toward the exact version of yourself that could handle the success you were begging for. Some of the greatest stories on earth came late. Morgan Freeman didn't become a household name until his 50s. Colonel Sanders didn't build KFC until he was in his 60s. Even nature takes its time. The bamboo plant spends years growing invisible roots before shooting up feet in just weeks. Because it knows strong roots first, strong rise later. So maybe your roots are still growing. Maybe your breakthrough is incubating in silence. Maybe the reason you're late is because you're meant to last longer. The truth is, there is no behind. The timeline you're comparing yourself to doesn't exist. You're not missing the bus, you're building the vehicle. You're not being ignored, you're being instructed. You're learning how to handle the blessing before it arrives, because success that comes too soon becomes suffering that lasts too long. And listen closely, Your patience will be tested right before your pivot. Life will look still, quiet, even hopeless. That's not the end. That's the tightening of the bow before the arrow flies. Every dreamer faces that stillness, that haunting silence between effort and reward. But those who don't quit there, they're the ones who end up telling the story later. When it's late, don't panic. Breathe. Look around. Ask yourself, what lesson is the delay trying to teach me? Because behind every pause, there's protection. Behind every rejection, there's redirection. And behind every waiting season, there's wisdom quietly loading. The world glorifies speed, fast money, fast fame, fast validation, but speed doesn't equal success. Direction does. You can be running fast and still be going nowhere. Life wants alignment, not adrenaline. The goal isn't to move quickly, it's to move rightly. And when your time comes, when that alignment finally clicks, you'll move with a force that makes up for every lost year. The people who doubted you will call it luck, but you'll know it wasn't luck. It was timing. Divine, deliberate timing. So don't curse the waiting. Don't hate the hidden years. They are the years that shape the legend. Every storm you've survived, every delay you've endured is collecting interest in silence. And one day, it'll pay back with compound impact. You were never late. You were learning the language of your destiny, patience. And patience will never let you down. Because when it's time, life doesn't whisper. It roars. So keep your faith steady. Keep your heart strong. Keep your focus sharp. When others rush ahead, stay aligned. When you feel forgotten, remember this truth. You are right on schedule for your miracle because the clock of greatness doesn't tick like the world's clock. It ticks like a heartbeat, slow, deep, consistent. And as long as that rhythm continues inside you, you're not late, you're alive, you're becoming. You're being readied for the exact moment when your purpose and your preparation finally meet. And when that moment arrives, you won't be behind, you'll be unstoppable. There's a strange silence that visits you when everyone leaves. The kind of silence that doesn't just fill the room, it fills your soul. You start hearing everything louder. Your thoughts, your doubts, your fears. You wonder if you've been forgotten, if all your effort was just echoing in an empty hallway of dreams. But what you call loneliness, life calls alignment. What feels like abandonment is actually calibration. Because before destiny trusts you with an audience, it tests you in isolation. Alone is not empty. Alone is sacred. It's the place where the noise of the world fades and the whisper of truth becomes clear. It's where you meet yourself, not the version molded by expectation or applause, but the raw, unfiltered, honest you. The one who can't hide behind validation, who can't perform, who can't pretend. That's the soul destiny is interested in. That's the voice silence is shaping. The world teaches you to fear solitude. It tells you if you're not surrounded, you're not succeeding. But the strongest people you've ever admired, they all went through seasons of isolation. The warrior trains alone before stepping into the arena. The prophet walks the desert before returning with revelation. The artist paints in solitude before the world calls it genius. Alone isn't punishment, it's preparation. You can't hear divine instruction in a crowd. You can't feel your purpose clearly when you're addicted to attention. The noise of opinions drowns out intuition. That's why life pulls you aside, not to punish you, but to polish you. to strip away the applause so you can hear your own rhythm, to teach you how to walk without crutches, how to breathe without approval, how to believe without being seen. Solitude reveals strength you didn't know you had, the kind that doesn't need to be loud, the kind that doesn't collapse when no one claps. Because real confidence isn't built from compliments, it's built from consistency when no one's watching. The ones who can endure the silence become unstoppable in the spotlight. Sometimes, life isolates you right before it elevates you. The people you thought would stay leave. The paths you thought were permanent close. The voices that once supported you vanish, and all that's left is you, standing in the echo of your own breath. But that's not loss. That's life saying, now, let's see who you really are when there's no one to perform for. In that quiet, something powerful happens. You stop seeking validation. You stop chasing approval. You begin to refine your standards. You learn who deserves access to you and who only wanted your energy, not your essence. You start protecting your peace like it's treasure, and it is. Because when peace becomes your priority, clarity becomes your power. Alone doesn't mean lonely. It means selective. It means you finally understand that not every presence is progress. Some people fill your time but drain your purpose. Some relationships feed your comfort but starve your calling. So solitude becomes your filter, separating what feels good from what is good for your future. When you're truly aligned, you'll start losing people, opportunities, and distractions, not because you're unlucky, but because you're leveling up. The higher your frequency, the fewer people can hear you, and that's okay. Growth is supposed to make you outgrow some circles. If you're alone right now, don't rush to escape it. Sit in it. Learn from it. Let it teach you how to be complete without constant company. Because dependence kills destiny. The version of you that needs to be liked can't lead. The version of you that fears silence can't hear divine direction. Remember, every legend was once a loner. David faced Goliath alone. Moses walked the wilderness alone. Jesus prayed in the garden alone. Even the stars, they shine alone, yet light up the whole sky. So don't despise the quiet. Embrace it. The silence that surrounds you now is forming the strength that will carry you later. The loneliness you feel is not evidence of absence, it's evidence of construction. Life is rearranging things behind the scenes, preparing you to step into a season that requires a deeper version of you, one that doesn't crumble when unsupported. This is the secret. When you master solitude, you become unbreakable. You stop depending on the world for energy because you've found your own source. You stop asking for permission to grow. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that no longer match your frequency. You stop explaining your silence because silence itself becomes your language of power. One day, the same people who overlooked you will wonder how you did it. They'll see the results of your private discipline. They'll witness the glow that only comes from inner peace. And when they ask, you'll smile and say, I was alone, and that's where I found everything I needed. So don't rush your arrival. Don't fear your solitude. The delay, the distance, the quiet, they're all part of the orchestration. Life is building you in private to present you in power. Alignment always comes before arrival. And when it's time, when you finally step back into the world, you'll walk differently. Grounded, unshaken, ready. Because solitude doesn't make you smaller. It makes you sharper. It burns away the unnecessary. It turns your mind into a weapon and your heart into a compass. The next version of you doesn't need noise to feel alive. It needs purpose. So while others chase attention, chase alignment. While they fill their silence with distraction, fill yours with direction. When destiny calls your name, it won't come through a crowd. It'll come through a whisper. One you could only hear because you dared to be still. That's the paradox of power. You must walk through aloneness to stand among greatness. You must learn to be enough in solitude before you can lead in success. So take this season not as exile, but as elevation. You're not being hidden from the world, you're being honed for it. When the curtain finally rises, when your name finally echoes through the world, remember where you were forged, in silence, in solitude, in sacred stillness. And that's why when destiny arrives, you'll be ready. Because you weren't just waiting, you were aligning. Pain, that quiet teacher no one wants, yet everyone meets. It comes without invitation, sits beside you unannounced, and refuses to leave until you've learned something deeper about yourself. For years, I ran from it. I buried it under distractions, business, and the illusion of strength. I told myself I was fine, but pain has a way of finding cracks in the armor. It seeps through slow and deliberate until you finally stop pretending and listen. Because pain is not your punishment, it's your purification. It burns away the noise, the false pride, the lies you tell yourself just to survive another day. It shows you what's real. It reveals what still matters after everything else has fallen apart. When you lose someone you love, when your plans collapse, when the world feels like it's watching you fail, that's not life breaking you. That's life bending you towards strength. Growth doesn't happen in comfort, it happens in friction. Every scar on your heart is proof that you cared enough to try, that you lived, that you loved. Pain is not the opposite of joy. It's the soil that joy grows from. You can't feel the full spectrum of life without both. The people who feel the deepest pain are often the ones capable of the deepest love, the purest empathy, the strongest resilience. Because when pain carves into your soul, it expands your capacity. You don't shrink, you stretch. The truth is, the strongest version of you is still under construction, and pain is the sculptor. Every heartbreak, every failure, every sleepless night is a chisel against the marble of your becoming. And though it hurts, it's shaping something timeless, a version of you that no storm can destroy. You see, comfort builds complacency, but pain builds character. Comfort gives you pleasure. Pain gives you power. Comfort teaches you to rest. Pain teaches you to rise. So the next time it hurts, don't rush to escape it. Don't numb it. Don't drown it. Sit with it. Ask it what it's trying to show you, because buried in pain's silence are answers no comfort could ever reveal. Every time you face pain head on, you take your power back. You stop letting the world define what should break you. You learn how to bend without shattering. You begin to trust that no matter how deep the wound, you will heal, maybe not the same, but stronger, wiser, more awake. Pain is proof that you're still alive, still growing. It's a signal that your spirit hasn't given up yet. That somewhere inside you, there's still a fight, still a dream, still a pulse. The people who stop feeling pain aren't free, they're numb. And numbness isn't peace, it's paralysis. To feel pain means you're still connected to life. To still ache means your heart still cares. That ache, that heaviness, that pull, That's your soul trying to remind you there's more to live for. And I know sometimes it feels unbearable, sometimes it feels unfair, but every person you've ever admired has walked through pain before they reached purpose. You can't skip that chapter, because without pain, there's no humility. Without humility, there's no wisdom. Without wisdom, there's no transformation. Think about the phoenix. It burns before it flies. Think about gold. It melts before it shines. Think about muscle. It tears before it grows. And think about you. The version of yourself that's coming next will rise from this exact fire. There's beauty in pain, but only if you let it teach you. Pain that's ignored becomes trauma. Pain that's understood becomes power. The world will try to tell you to avoid pain, to medicate it, to mute it, to move on fast. But healing doesn't happen in speed. It happens in presence. The moment you stop running and sit still long enough to face the ache, it loses its control over you. You stop being the victim of it and start being the witness of it. And that's when you realize a pain was never the enemy. It was the compass. It was guiding you toward what needed healing all along. Some of your greatest revelations will come not in laughter, but in tears. Some of your most profound peace will come not after a win, but after a loss. Because pain strips away everything fake. And what's left? That raw authenticity, that's your true foundation. When you finally rise after the fall, you'll understand why it had to hurt. You'll look back and say, if I hadn't been broken there, I wouldn't be built here. That's the paradox. Pain feels like destruction in the moment, but it's actually construction in disguise. And listen, if you're hurting right now, know this. You are not behind. You are not weak. You are not cursed. You're just in the furnace. And nothing forged in fire comes out ordinary. The heat you're feeling now is shaping your purpose, sharpening your edges, making sure when you step back into the light, you can't be shattered again by the same blows. So let it burn. Let it refine you. Let it strip away who you were pretending to be so who you truly are can finally breathe. Because on the other side of pain is not just healing, it's rebirth. Pain means life is still working on you. It means the story isn't over. It means your heart is still writing its next chapter. And one day, not today, not tomorrow, but someday soon, you'll look back at the pain that tried to destroy you and whisper, "Thank you." Because it didn't destroy you, it delivered you. You'll walk through life differently after that. Calmer, wiser, quieter. Because once you've survived what was meant to break you, you stop fearing anything else. You carry a peace that doesn't come from things going right, but from knowing you can handle it when they go wrong. That's what pain does. It doesn't just teach you how to live, it teaches you how to rise. It doesn't just scar you, it signs you. A mark that says, I've been through the fire and I came out gold. So if you're hurting right now, don't hide your pain. Honor it. Let it remind you you're still alive, you're still becoming, and the very fire that hurts you today will be the light that guides you tomorrow. Brother, take a breath. Look at how far you've come. From the first crack of doubt to the sound of your own voice standing tall again. This journey wasn't just about words. It was about transformation. You walked through the forge of failure, the desert of endings, the shadow of fear, the weight of pain, and you came out carrying light. You've seen the truth now, that every stumble was training, every scar a signature of survival. The same world that once told you, "You can't," is now whispering, "How did he?" And that shift, that's not luck. That's growth earned in silence, paid for with nights no one saw. When we began, I told you pain would shape you, not punish you. That respect, trust, and love were the trinity that built unbreakable men. You learned how to fall forward through failure, how to endure when endings closed every door, how to face fear not as an enemy, but as initiation. You've learned to lead your own life instead of begging for direction from others. Now look around. Everything that tried to bury you became the soil you're rooted in. FAIL became your foundation. Ian taught you effort never dies. Happy reminded you pain always ends. Far turned into flight. Gual pushed you to get out and learn again and again. And through all of it, legacy whispered in the dark. Don't chase applause. Build something that lasts. You lived through the chapters most men never finish. The world watched you crack, but it never saw the rebuilding. Because the rebuilding happened inside, in the silence, in the doubt, in the moments you could have quit, but didn't. That's where the real story was written. Here's the thing, this was never about success. It was about becoming whole. Because success fades, but self-mastery, that's eternal. You've stood in every storm now, rejection, betrayal, loss, isolation. You've bled through growth and laughed through pain. You've seen endings turn into openings. You've faced fear and found your fire on the other side. And through it all, one truth has stayed constant. You are still here. The world breaks men every day, but the rare ones, the unstoppable ones, they turn that breaking into blueprint. They don't just rebuild, they redesign. You, my brother, have become the architect of your own existence. The same hands that once trembled in defeat now carry the weight of wisdom. The same eyes that once looked for validation now see with clarity. You no longer chase light, you are the light. And I want you to remember something sacred. Pain was your sculptor, failure your teacher, fear your compass. Every enemy was a disguised instructor, every setback a silent sermon, every fall a step closer to becoming the kind of man who no longer needs to prove, only to be. Because now you are no longer becoming. You are discipline in motion. You are faith under pressure. You are purpose made flesh. You are the quiet strength that storms bow to. Look, this world will still test you. It will still try to pull you back into comfort, back into distraction, back into the noise. But now you know better. You know the circle of power begins with ownership and ends with legacy. You've seen how failure can forge faith, how endings can birth beginnings, how pain can polish the diamond until it shines with truth. That's what it means to seal it with power, to take everything you've learned and embody it, no longer seeking approval, no longer asking permission, no longer hiding behind potential. You've crossed the threshold. You don't hope anymore. You know. You've learned that respect without trust is hollow, that love without growth is imprisonment, that loyalty without alignment is sabotage. You've seen that not everyone can come with you, and that's not rejection, that's refinement. You've learned to walk alone when necessary, to fight your battles quietly, and to let silence speak louder than pride ever could. Because this is the truth. You were never meant to blend in. You were built to break patterns. You were meant to rise where others fold, to stand where others kneel, to carry yourself with a kind of calm power that doesn't need to shout to be felt. You've reached the place where the pain turns into purpose, where the chaos turns into clarity, where the noise fades and the message remains. You've stepped out of survival and into significance. And now, you are unstoppable. This is not motivation anymore. This is metamorphosis. You don't need the world to validate you, because you've already faced the world's worst and survived. You don't need guarantees, because your faith is your armor now. You don't need applause, because your legacy is your echo. You stand here, not the man who started this journey, but the one who finished it. You are no longer defined by what broke you, but by what built you. No longer chasing strength, you embody it. No longer seeking light, you radiate it. And here's the final truth: every section, every lesson, every pain, every fall, it was never separate. It was all one movement, one symphony, one rising tide leading here to this moment of awakening. The world hasn't changed, brother. You have. And that changes everything. Now stand tall, breathe. This is your coronation, the moment you step fully into the life you've earned. The moment the student becomes the standard, because everything you were running from has now become the fuel that drives you forward. Every ending that broke you gave birth to a beginning you couldn't yet see. Every loss taught you how to love without attachment, and every scar became your proof of endurance. And now you no longer move in fear, you move in purpose. You no longer wait for permission. You walk in alignment. You no longer beg for peace. You are peace. You've sealed it with power. You've transformed every weakness into weapon, every wound into wisdom, every whisper of doubt into declaration. So let me ask you something, not to test you, but to awaken you. Now that you've become the storm, what will you build with the calm that follows? Because the truth is, you are unstoppable. Not someday, not when they believe in you, not when you arrive. You are unstoppable now, here as you are. And that man is you.